So it now gives me great pleasure to hand the meeting over to Yisreal, who's come to share with us on the topic of Step 12. Yisreal has been a fantastic friend of UK Open Lounge, and so I'm so excited to have him here again with us tonight to share. And over to you.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation to be here. Thanks to everyone that has a service position here. Thanks to my friend Josephine for being here, having a service position here, welcoming me, and everyone. I'm a little frazzled as I just finished my home group, which ended at 10 o'clock, exactly at the same moment that this meeting began. And that's why I was a couple minutes late. I apologize. I have a service commitment there, and I was doing my service before I came here. So let's just go back to the beginning and start there. I'm an alcoholic and a member of the Mediterranean group, which meets on Zoom, but originates out of here in Jerusalem, Israel, which is where I am. And my name is Yisreal Campbell. I will put my number in the chat so that anyone that wants to can reach out to me. And I only ask that if you take my number, you please send me your number so that I can call you too. So I want to again say thank you for the opportunity to be here and the opportunity to speak here tonight. I've enjoyed being at the Open Lounge over the years as we have traversed this time in AA history. My story is the following. I'll qualify first, but I promise I won't. You got to watch out for people that say, I'm just going to qualify for a moment, right? Because like 40 minutes later, I'm still drunk, So I know what I've been asked to do is to come here and just speak about the 12 steps and then just a little bit about the whole process of the steps. And I'm grateful to be able to do that. But I do want to qualify as it's a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. To the new people, I want to welcome you. If you're in your counting days, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you're a part of Alcoholics Anonymous, whether this is your first time in or your 10th time in or your 100th time in, doesn't matter, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're sober today. And I believe with my whole heart that you never have to drink again. If that sounds like a horrible thing, I understand that too. But I still believe you never have to drink again. And I heard this somewhere in the Zoom era of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'll repeat it. If you're in your last 90 days of sobriety, and we don't ask people in their last 90 days of sobriety to raise their hand, I would imagine most of them wouldn't even know that they're in their last 90 days of sobriety. But so I don't know how to qualify that except to say that if you think that everything you hear in the meetings are shit, and it's just the same garbage over and over and over again, and you can't believe that so-and-so is still talking about their dog, and so-and-so is still talking about their kids, and so-and-so is still talking about whatever the hell that is that they talk about constantly and endlessly and forever, I welcome you to stay also. I believe you never have to drink again either. I will invite you to change your approach to Alcoholics Anonymous. I would invite you, if you're in your last 90 days of sobriety, to reach out to someone with struggling. More time, less time, doesn't really matter. Get their number and try and be of service. Trying to give rather than get. I agree with you. If I came to Alcoholics Anonymous to get, it would be tiresome at best. There's just not that much that we give in terms of information. But when we come here to give instead of to get, there's always a new opportunity for service. It's really, really endless. It changes all the time. It's dynamic, it's organic, and it's always something new. And so I welcome you to engage with the program in that way. I had my first drink when I was 9 years old. I had my last drink when I was 16 years old. I drank for as long as I possibly could. Every drink I ever took was an answer to a question. It was the solution to a problem. I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't say with medical certainty that what I'm about to say is true. But if fear, self-loathing, anxiety, hyper-focused self-centeredness, anger, rage can be transmitted through breast milk, it was in my case. I'm being cute. I get it. I'm being cute. I'm cute. What can I say? It's my cross to bear. I'm adorable. I'm stuck with that. All my life. I guess not every day. I guess there were sunny days. I guess there were flowery days. I guess there were days when I smiled at the universe. But it feels like every single day of my life, before I picked up a drink, I was super aware of everything that you had and I didn't. Super aware of everything that I wanted that you had that I didn't. Aware of every little, how many older brothers and sisters you had, how much bigger your house was, how much better your car was, everything that separated me from you. And I took that drink and that all just drained right out of me. It was like a guided meditation. It was like that guided meditation where they say, breathe in the golden light and let the golden light fill you from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, pushing out fear and anxiety. And that's what beer did for me. That's what Carling Black Label beer did for me. That's what liquor did for me. That's what marijuana and pills did for me. It just took it all away. It was a spiritual solution, right? I say this all the time. For some reason, I've been unable to memorize it. I don't know why. It might be signs of early onset dementia. How would we know, right? If I were demented, how would we know? In his letters, Carl Jung and Bill Wilson wrote letters to each other in the early 1960s. Bill wrote to Carl Jung to say thank you for the part you played in Alcoholics Anonymous's beginnings, right? Carl Jung worked for an entire year with Roland Hazard. Roland Hazard then continued to drink until he got sober, and then he helped Ebby get sober. Ebby helped Bill get sober. Bill helped Bob get sober, and suddenly we had AA. 25 years later, Bill wrote to say thank you. And Dr. Jung wrote back, and in his letter, he said, of course I remember Roland. He said his craving for alcohol was the equivalent on a low level of the spiritual thirst of our being for wholeness. Expressed in medieval language, the union with God. What did Carl Jung say to Bill Wilson? Roland was seeking a spiritual experience with alcohol. So we were partying, we were doing whatever we were doing, but I believe with my whole heart, at least in my case, I was seeking recovery, a spiritual experience. I wanted to alter who and what I was through the application of spirits. Low level, yes. Ineffective, yes. I would say that any spiritual path that causes you to wet the bed is not an effective spiritual path. Later in the same letter, just in case Bill wasn't listening the first time, Dr. Jung repeats himself. He says, you see, alcohol in Latin is spiritus, and you use the same word for the highest religious experience as well as the most depraving poison. The helpful formula, therefore, is spiritus contra spiritum. That's what he was saying. I know, I'm boring myself. I say this shit so much. I'm like putting myself to sleep. Anyway, I just heard such a great speaker. If you ever get a chance to hear Chris F., go listen. She gave an amazing talk at my home group, and I'm sorry that I have to slop it all up by sharing right after her. But I want to say the following. This is the spiritual experience, this 12 steps, Alcoholics Anonymous, that replaces the spiritual experience that I had attempted to apply to my alcoholism. It's confusing when we call our drinking our alcoholism. because our drinking is the treatment for our alcoholism. The book says as much. It says in the fourth step, we had to get down to causes and conditions. The causes and conditions are what I call alcoholism. My application of alcohol to those causes and conditions were to solve the problem of the causes and conditions. Clancy Emerson, my beloved sponsor, used to say that we alcoholics aren't problem drinkers. Problem drinkers stop drinking and they stop having problems. We alcoholics stop drinking and we start having problems. Right? Because when we stop, we don't have a solution anymore. So if you're new here tonight and you're just happy that you stopped drinking and you can't believe it, and I'm not speaking to any of you directly because I don't even know who any of you were because I was running around looking for my big book while you were introducing yourselves, so I wasn't really paying attention. But we see it all the time. I see it all the time. Someone comes into AA, they stop drinking, they say, wow, this is amazing. 3, 6, 4, 9 months later, they say, I don't even think about drinking anymore. I'm doing great. My life is fabulous. She came back. The job came back. The car got fixed. Everything is fabulous. I would never drink. I don't need all these steps and all these meetings. And God, you guys are a bit tiresome because I don't even think about it. But if I haven't replaced that solution with this solution or another solution, then I'm in trouble because I'm going to need a solution sooner rather than later. I was going to go to the end and then go back to the beginning, but I think I'm just going to start at the beginning, right? We come to Alcoholics Anonymous and we're told about the first step. We're powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. That's 2 separate statements. I'm powerless over alcohol. Full stop, period. What you may say, but Yisreal, haven't you ever read the 10-step promises? Don't you read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous? Come on, man. Open your book. Get with the program. Get with the, right? It says right here in the middle of page 84. We have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. It's not an overnight matter to continue for a lifetime, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, blah, 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 blah. You know, it says all that. It says we have ceased fighting anything and anyone. For by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. I would say more than seldom. I've been sober 42 years. There's a half a bottle of red wine on my counter from 2 Shabbats ago. It could sit there till the end of time, I think. If tempted, we recoil from it like a hot flame. We react sanely and normally. I never reacted sanely and normally to alcohol. But we will find this has happened automatically. We'll see our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, nor are we avoiding temptation. That's not the way I interacted with alcohol. I used to rub against the bottle. Simply looking at alcohol made me feel better. When I was a teenager, we would drive down to the beer distributor on Friday afternoon. We would buy a case of Colt 45. We would throw it in the trunk of the car. And as soon as that beer was in the car, I felt better. As soon as that beer was in the car, I could breathe. For the rest of the afternoon, I was a better brother. I was a better son. I was a better friend. I was a better neighbor because I knew I had 8 beers with my name on it. 10 if I stole 2 of yours. That's how powerful alcohol is for me. I don't even have to drink it in order to feel better. Simply knowing I have access to it allows me to relax. And that is completely changed. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. Does that sound like an alcoholic's response to alcohol? No, it doesn't. Does that make the first step untrue? No, it doesn't. In light of the application of all 12 steps, true, as the 10-step promises say, I'm not powerless over alcohol, right? If I go into a restaurant, say I have the honor one day of eating a meal with one of you, and we sit at the restaurant and the waitress comes up to the table and she says, would you like a glass of wine? We won't have to say yes because we're powerless over alcohol. We will get the opportunity to say no, and we will get to choose not to drink because we've had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps. If we ever lose that spiritual experience, then we'll be in the position we were in when we got here. And that position is one of being powerless over alcohol. So to my mind, though I'm not in that state presently, it's still true. If I stop having a spiritual experience, I will be powerless over alcohol. And since God does not have the kindness and generosity to send me an email every morning saying whether or not I'm in fit spiritual condition, there's no real way for me to know. So I operate each and every day as if I'm powerless over alcohol. But what I know more than anything, and I know this from practical experiences, that my life is unmanageable. It has become unmanageable, and it is unmanageable to this day if I try and manage it myself. If I am the manager of my life, I am in trouble. I am in big trouble. It's not going to go well. That's the fact. But in step 2, I come to believe in a power greater than myself. And in my experience, that has evolved over time. The first power that I believed in was me and my sponsor. I don't remember if I had actually spelled that out. I don't know if what I'm about to say was true in my mind or if I just applied the knowledge without actually understanding what I was doing. But what I knew is that if I called him every evening, I could make sense of my day and I could feel better and I could apply myself to the next day. And that, right? The book talks about God. It talks a lot about God. If you're new, don't worry. There's a beautiful saying of a Hasidic rabbi who lived in the 1800s in the town of Berdichev, which is in the Ukraine, and his name was Levi Yitzhak, and he is said to have said to the town atheist, the God that you don't believe in, I don't believe in either. And I think that's perfect for someone who's new to AA. If you are new to AA and you just fucking hate God because God's a fucking piece of shit and he's been fucking with you for decades, I'm just saying, if that's how you feel, I'm not saying you have to feel that way, but I want you to know if you do, I get it. But hear me out. The God that you don't believe in, that piece of shit God that's been fucking with you, I don't believe in that God either. So no, when I talk about God, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not anything like what I'm talking about. The first, power greater than myself. The book says somewhere in there, we have to access a power greater than ourselves in order to not drink, in order to live. That application is started from me in the following equation. Me and any one of you is a power greater than me. So every time I pick up the phone, whether I make the call or you make the call, every time I pick up the phone and speak to a fellow member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am accessing a power greater than myself. And that's what I need in order to recover from alcoholism. Now, you might want to stop right there. I didn't. I wanted bells and whistles. I wanted accoutrements. I wanted stuff. I wanted holidays, lots of them. I wanted foreign languages. I wanted books written in those foreign languages. I wanted beards. I wanted curls on the side of my head. I wanted a hat. I wanted a hat on top of my hat. I wanted it all. So I sought out something much greater. But on any given day, me and any one of you are a power greater than me. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, an Irish, Italian, Catholic kid from Philadelphia. I sit before you, an Orthodox Jew living in Jerusalem. So it wasn't enough to stop at me, and any one of you is a power greater than me. I sought out a much, to my mind, richer, deeper, fuller, more authentic experience. To your mind, maybe pure insanity. That's fine. That's fine. It doesn't have... What it tells me on page 90 in working with others, page 93, perhaps, since it's not on page 90, and it's talking to the man who's working with the newcomer. It says, if the man be agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic that he does not have to agree with your conception of God. Let's apply that to the whole group. You do not have to agree with my conception of God or anyone else's at all, ever. Not your sponsors, not the guy that you sit next to at your home group, not your girlfriend, even if she's the answer to all your problems. Nobody. And these are the words of the book. He, the newcomer, can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him, not to you, not to anyone else, but him. So if someone says in a meeting, you can't have a doorknob, a rock, a lightning bolt, a sunset, a river, go for it, a girlfriend, as your higher power, say, you know what? I heard a guy quote the book, page 93, though he thought it was 90 at first. And he said, I can have any conception of God as long as it makes sense to me. The main thing, the book continues, is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than himself. And that he live by spiritual principles. And that sounds kind of daunting, but I want to put forth the idea that if I attend a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and I raise my hand to help clean up the room after the meeting, that act is a spiritual principle. That if some newcomer calls me and says, or some old timer calls me and says, hey, I need a ride to the meeting tonight, or a ride to the veterinarian this afternoon, or a ride to the, I bought a bookshelf and I don't have any way to get it home. If I say yes to any of those requests, that's a spiritual principle. If I get a commitment at my group, say I'm the coffee guy, that's a spiritual principle to make coffee for other people. If I'm the cookie guy, that's a spiritual principle. Sure, if I work the steps, sure, if I read the book with someone, sure, but it's all spiritual principles. So back to step 2. It started for me at me and any one of you. It's grown much bigger. It's gotten more flowery. It's gotten deeper. It's gotten richer. It's gotten more authentic, or it's gotten goofier. But it's growing. It's dynamic. In the fifth chapter, we talk about old ideas. For the longest time, what I said when they read old ideas was ideas from my drinking. But I've been sober for 42 years. Old ideas are things I thought yesterday. Now, I might think the same thing again today, but it has to be true again today. I have to be willing to say, this doesn't work for me anymore. Even if I've been doing it forever, even if I've sat in this chair every Sunday morning at the Sunday morning meeting, even if I drink out of the same mug with my name on it sitting in front of the same stack of Oreos, I have to be willing to say, this doesn't work for me anymore. I have to be willing to grow, be willing to change. Sometimes for some people, not me. I've lived in 4 or 5 different cities. I've lived in 2 different countries. I've traveled the world. I've had a slew of sponsors. I know people that live in the same town they got sober in. They have the same sponsor they got sober with, and it's all good for them. That's them. I have to find my life. I have to find how I apply these principles in my life today, given the situation of my life today. Step 3, I've come to believe in this power that's going to help me manage my life, because it's not just me anymore managing my life. It's me and this power. I turn my will and life over to the care of this God in the 3rd tradition. The 3rd step, the best idea I've ever heard about this that I like the most is using the analogy of buying a house. You decide to buy a house. You get a mortgage. And every month for the next 30 years, you pay the mortgage. You don't re-decide to buy the house. You bought the house. Now you just pay the mortgage. And when the roof needs to be fixed, you fix the roof because you own a house. But again, you don't re-decide to buy the house. You've already bought the house. Turn my will and life over to the care of God. Now that process, that application is ongoing and forever. But to the best of my ability, I try and remember that I've done that. It's a done deed. And because the wreckage of my past is the wreckage of my past, I sort through it. As it says, any business that's unwilling to do an inventory will go bankrupt. So I had to be willing to walk into the basement of my life and to pull out boxes that were wet and moldy and clean up vermin and rat shit, if that's not, if I wasn't being clear enough, and sweep out and repaint. And that's the 4th step. And sharing that all with someone else is taking the trust and faith and sharing it with God. I've heard people say, and maybe I even once thought that, I don't need to share it with another person. Sharing it with God is enough. But it's not enough, because I don't know. I believe in God, but I don't know what that means. I pray every day. I pray as a religious Jew. I pray 3 times a day. Some days I feel like my prayers are being released like doves. Most days I feel like they're dribbling down my shirt and I should be wearing a bib. Doesn't matter. Either way, I say the prayers. I've made the decision. I've written the inventory. I share it with another human being because when I share it with another human being, I know I've shared it with another human being. When I share it with God, I don't really have any proof of that. At the end of that 5th step, I went to my house and I sat down with my book. It says, take the book off the shelf. So, you want to be cute, put the book up on the shelf and then take it down off the shelf. And then you'll have done what the book said. Sit for an hour, review the first 5 proposals, and then say the 7-step prayer. Was I entirely willing? I don't know. I was certainly more willing than I had ever been. I know people that have written out, they've been told by their sponsors to write out a dictionary of defects. Write out every defect they've ever thought they might have had. Every defect I don't see that in the book. I'm not saying that, I'm not done with the 6th and 7th step because it took an hour and a half to do on the night that I said my 5th step. I'm not avoiding something by doing it, but that's what the book says to do. And then I start writing my 8th step list and praying for the willingness to make those amends. And I start to make those amends in the 9th step. And all of those steps are new. Not a single repeat through 9. It's all new actions. And then, and it would seem to me, if I were writing the steps, that the next step after 9 should be 11. And what I mean by that is we've done all this work in 1 through 9, right? And it's a tremendous amount of spiritual work. I mean, by that point, we're really, let's just say we're spiritual giants. And we're really keyed into this new spiritual life. And we're going to a lot of meetings, no doubt. And we're helping a lot of people, no doubt. And right? Just let's review quickly what we did. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. We've come to believe in a power greater than ourselves. We've incorporated that power through the 3rd step into our life so that it's not just our will anymore, but it's our will and God's will put together. We've cleaned up shop. We've fixed the store so that we can go forth as service workers in a much more effective way. We've shared that damaged past with someone else, including God and another human being. We've asked God to remove the defects of character so that we can be of more use and more effectiveness. We've said we're sorry, and we've asked how we can fix the damage we've done. Wouldn't it make sense that from that spiritual place, it would say the next step would be continue to grow spiritually? Clearly, you've done so much work. Continue to grow spiritually. And then we would have 11 would be 10. And then it would say something like, and every once in a while, when you have a resentment, you know what to do. But that's not how it works. That's not how it was written, and that's not how it works. After all the spiritual work of the first 9 steps, the very first next indicated action is more inventory. In other words, we are going to have more resentments. They're not going to be occasional, and they're not going to be random, and they're not going to be in those few moments when our spiritual energies break down. They're going to be right there. The very next indicated action is taking care of resentment. And of course, when we read 10 and 11 in the book, 10 seems to be about prayer and meditation and inventory, and 11 seems to be about inventory and prayer and meditation. It all seems to be mixed up. And more than anything else, what I took from 10 and 11 recently, when I got sober, and I don't know if this is what they actually said, but it seemed to me that they said, in the morning, ask God to keep you sober. And at night, thank him for keeping you sober. And that seemed to leave the whole rest of the day to me. You know what I mean? Like, I had a lot of decisions to make. I had a lot of actions to take. I had a lot of damage to do. And then at night, I would say, thank you. Now, when I read the 10th and 11th step in the big book today, I'm asking for intuition. I'm praying when doubtful and agitated. I'm looking at the 24 hours ahead. I'm asking where I can be helpful. It seems to be something closer to conscious contact with God. In other words, an ongoing dialogue, an ongoing discussion, an ongoing relationship that takes up most of the day. Now, I'm not saying I do that. I'm saying that's what the book says, describes me as doing. And for that matter, you as doing. But we're not here to talk about you. Right? If I do what the book says, if I look at my 24 hours ahead and I'm leaning on the book, perhaps I should just read it out loud. Okay. Where am I? Right here. Right here. Where should we start? Night, day, it doesn't really matter. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We should not be... No, I'm going to back up. I mean, I already read some of it, right? We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and affecting it. It's not an overnight matter to continue for a lifetime, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, right? Right? Continue to look for these things, inventory. And then the very next words, when these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. Well, if I'm asking God at once to remove my dishonesty, my selfishness, my resentment, my fear, I'm pretty much going to be talking to God all day long. Right? If you would disagree, you're going to cause me to talk to God again. Well, wait, 10 is inventory. Why am I talking to God? And now we're going to go into 11. We shouldn't be shy about this matter of prayer. Better men than us are using it constantly. If it works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. It will be easy to be vague, but yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. Did they not just say we were going to talk about prayer rather specifically? And what did they say next? When we retire, we constructively review our day. What? You just said we were going to talk about prayer, and now we're talking about inventory. Where were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves? Were we kind and loving towards all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? This is an inventory. But they said we were going to talk about prayer. So maybe inventory is prayer. Maybe it's all prayer. Maybe it's all spiritual principle, like they said on page 93. Maybe the act of inventory is a spiritual principle, and maybe it's prayer. Maybe it doesn't have to start with Hail Mary or Our Father or, maybe it's simply communication with the universe, my fellows, myself, my soul, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it. And then on to 12, working with others. The things I want to say about 12 are the following, and they're not in any specific order. I want to say that I've been given such a gift in Alcoholics Anonymous, my life, but not just the life that I had, a new life, a life beyond my wildest dreams. That's what they promised me. They didn't promise me my wildest dreams. Had they promised me my wildest dreams, I would have a lifetime supply of Marlboro and a 1980 Camaro, because that was as big as it got in my mind when I got sober. If they had said, you can have anything you want, I would have said a lifetime supply of Marlboro and a brand new Camaro. Cigarettes, I don't smoke anymore, and I'd have a 42-year-old car. Let's be more specific, a 42-year-old Chevy. I'm sure it wouldn't work. But but they didn't say, we promise you a life of your wildest dreams. And had they, I would have been cheated. They said of life beyond your wildest dreams, meaning something I couldn't see from where I was sitting then. And the same is true today. I believe I'm promised a life beyond my wildest dreams today, too. Beyond. Not my wildest dreams. It wouldn't be cigarettes and cars anymore, but it wouldn't be much more spiritually evolved than that. We're not going to get into it. But trust me, this whole beyond thing is much better. And that's what I've been given. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous has given me each and every one of these days for 42 years. Am I selfish enough not to be here to give this to someone else? We hear it. Sometimes I say it. So I'll just run through it really quickly. Oh my God, my life is so full. It's so rich. I'm so in love. God, we communicate so deeply. We're like, oh God, it's so great when we get to spend time together. It's fabulous. And my work, it's dream come true. It's all I've ever wanted to do. It's absolutely the most positively best job I've ever had. It's not a job. I want to be there. I stay all day. Oh, and the view from my apartment, my house, my place, my car, whatever. Oh, it's amazing. I look out my window and I just see God. I see God's little fingerprints all over everything. My partner's fabulous. My career's fabulous. My house is fabulous. God, I just don't want to lock myself down, calling myself an alcoholic. It's so negative. It's so limiting. I just want to be free. I get colonics. My colon is clean. It's amazing. I don't have time for AA. I'm busy. I'm living the life that I was given by this program. Really? Am I so selfish as to be given all these gifts and not come back to give it to the next person? Because when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous was filled with sober people. They didn't talk like that, but they had good jobs. They had clean clothes. They had families. They had places to go and people to see. And yet, they came to Alcoholics Anonymous. So that on the day that I arrived in Alcoholics Anonymous, it wasn't filled with guys with 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a finger in the book going, let's try this. It was filled by people who had real, rich, full, deep, authentic lives that they had gotten in Alcoholics Anonymous. They were sober 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And they were sitting in the room when I got here. They weren't called by the one guy that stayed in the club. They were already here because it was a part of their life. And I'm already here too. I was at my home group before this meeting. I'm here tonight. I'll go to my live meeting tomorrow. Somebody is having their last drink right now. And sometime very soon, they're going to need a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want for them what was given to me, which is a room full of people that have recovered from alcoholism. I'm not a big debater on the recovered thing. I'm really not.
I don't know why.
The book says
Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you talking to me? Could anyone else hear that?
Yeah, it's all right. Don't worry. Carry on. It's real. It's all right.
Okay. As long as it's not inside my head. Because if that voice were inside my head, I would leave the meeting right now. Somebody's having their last drink, and they're going to need to know something they don't know tomorrow or later tonight. They don't know that they don't have to die of alcoholism. They think they have to die of alcoholism. They think they might not even know they have alcoholism. They might not even think they have a problem. But they think they have to do what they're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. They think they're applying, they won't use this language, but they think they're applying a solution. They think they're taking care of it. I'm fine. I'm taking care of it. But they're not. And somewhere deep inside them, they know they're not. And it scares the shit out of them to think that their solution won't work again. Because they know there's no other solution. And what we know is that there is. And what we know is that it's open to all. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you are. We don't care what you believe. We don't care what you don't believe. We don't care what color we are. We don't care who you fuck. We don't care about any of that. We don't care if you fuck. We don't care. Do it. Don't do it. Stop it. Don't stop it. It doesn't matter. We know you can live without a drink, without a drug, one day at a time for the rest of your life. And if that's too much to handle, we'll break it down. But we know. So I want us, those that know, to be here when they get here, so that they walk in and they see us. And whether they realize it on day one and they never drink again, or if, like Clancy, they spend 9 years trying to get one before they get 62. Who would have thought, really? Clancy got sober on October 29th, October 31st, at Valentine's, Halloween. That's why I'm single, because I think Valentine's Day is Halloween. Who would have thought, say a week before that, after he'd been around for 9 years unsuccessfully, who would have bet that he was about to start a 62-year run of sobriety? Who would have bet, when they kicked him in the teeth and threw him out of the mission that morning into the rain, that he was going to one day run that mission, that he was going to help thousands of alcoholics stay sober? Who would have thought? Nobody. So I don't know if it's going to work for them tomorrow when they come here for the first time, or if they're going to bang along the bottom for as long as they have to. But no matter what, I want this room to be filled with people who have the power and the knowledge and the freedom afforded by the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, whether they choose to take it or not. And that's the beauty. That even if they don't want it, that's okay too. Or even if they take a little and then they stop, that's okay too. It doesn't matter. That's not what we're judging. That's not what we're deciding. That's not what the 12-step is. The 12-step is the application of all the principles we've spoken about in our lives, whether we ever work with another alcoholic or not. Our lives are filled with people that deserve to have the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous in action in us when they interact with us. Whether they be our valet or our pool boy or our tennis pro or our spouse or our clergyman or our child or our landlord or our tenant. Every single person we interact with deserves to be treated the way we would treat them if and when we have all the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous working in our life. And then we should be here so that we can give this to the next person that needs it, with an open hand and an open heart, so that if they don't take it, that's okay too. That for me is I spent a lot of time in AA. Making people understand that they weren't working the program correctly and trying to help them do it right. Doesn't that sound like a lot of fun to be around? That's not what I want to be today. That's not who I want to be today. I want to be in a place where I know what I have and I'm willing to give it to you if you want it. And if you want something else, I wish you all the best. Not in a passive-aggressive, I can't wait till you come back drunk way. I really wish you all the best. If you find this in your religion, great. If you find this in your Rotary Club, great. If you find this in any one of the other A's, great. That's the beauty of Alcoholics Anonymous. We said, if this will work for you, drug addict, gambler, sex addict, food addict, take it. Take it. Take it and do what you will do with it. That's the way I want to share these principles with others. And it's not easy. Thanks.